Hi everyone, good afternoon. Very good afternoon to each one of you. Welcome to BYJU'S exam prep and welcome to this today's session on most important CAT topics that I'm going to discuss with you today. So I am assuming that I am audible and visible to all of you. There are no operational issues. I'm Saral Nashir with you today to talk about these important topics for CAT. Of course, the session is relevant for all the people who are preparing for CAT 2023. Now, the season of 2022 is over. Almost all the exams have been over till now, right? So, I'm sure that many of you would be in the, full flow of your preparation for CAT 23. And this is the right time that when you should actually start for it if you have not started, till now. So, what are the important topics for CAT? This is a common question that has been asked to me by many students before as well. Let's say we can't do all the things, of course, in the coming time. So, if I'm not good at quantitative ability, probably the remaining time is needed only to do quantitative ability then. And similarly, the case might be there with LRDI. Similarly, it can be the case with verbal ability as well. So, can we have some important areas where we can focus more rather than the other areas? So, that's what I am discussing in our today's class. And what is the logic of giving you these important topics? So, I have done some research of the last few years. That in the last few years, what kind of questions have appeared more? Generally, what have been the sources of those questions in case of VARC? In the other areas, from which areas they have been there, I mean quantitative ability. If the questions have been from arithmetic, then from which area in arithmetic? How many questions have appeared? That's all I am going to discuss in our today's class. Okay. So that's what the agenda is. So I again request all of you to please tell me through the chat box. Am I clearly audible and visible? Is everything okay? I hope there are no problems at my end, right? Then we shall start with our session that is about important topics for CAT 2023. Okay. So let's start without any further delay. We should start with it now. So the first thing first. Let's start with the CAT 2023 expected paper pattern. We'll start with that. So, of course, in all the classes, I first of all discuss about it because we have different people in all the classes. So, therefore, I spent some first 5-7 minutes to tell you about the CAT exam. What can you expect from CAT 23? How many questions can you expect and all those things, score versus percentile and all. So, when I talk about CAT 2023 here, our expectation about the exam is that it is going to be a 2-hour exam with 66 to 76 questions in it. It can be anything from 66 to 76, right? Verbal ability might have 24 to 26 questions. Data interpretation, logical reasoning might have anything from 20 to 24. Quantitative ability might have anything from 22 to 26. What is the basis for this information? So CAT has been a 2-hour exam in the last 3 years, that is 2022, 21 and 20. And in these 3 years, the number of questions in VARC section have been either 24 or 26. In DILR, it has been 20 or 24. In quantitative ability, it has been 22 or 26. And total number of questions in the paper has been either 66 or 76. So, of course, any of those two patterns can repeat in CAT 2023 as well. But in the last 3 years, the exam has been of 2 hours. So there is a good possibility that this year also the exam is going to be a 2-hour affair. And of course, when the exam is of 2 hours, there are three slots which are there: morning slot, afternoon slot, and then evening slot. There is a section wise time limit of 40 minutes, then it has to be there. And for every right answer, there is plus 3 marks. For every wrong answer, there is minus 1 marks. For unattempted questions, there are no marks. And when I talk about the non-MCQ questions, which are called Theta by CAT, type in the answer type questions. In these questions, actually, there is no negative marking as well. Whereas for MCQ questions, there is a negative marking. So these Theta questions have been introduced by CAT in the last few years only. Before that, they did not ask such questions. So this is the expected pattern of CAT in 2023 according to us, right? I hope all of you got my point here, and I repeat, whenever you have a question, you want to say anything, please put it in the chat box. I would be happy to answer your questions whatever you want to ask. Okay. Now, let's talk about a score versus percentile thing. Okay, we have seen that the exam duration is this, the section duration is this. For every right answer, wrong answer, how many marks do you get? At what score, what kind of percentile do we get? For that, first of all, you need to know what is percentile. So, percentile is basically the percentage of students who are below you, the percentage of students who are below you. So 100 percentile is the best percentile in the exam, and 0 percentile is the worst percentile in the exam. So here he is telling you at what percentile, what score you should be having. So out of 198, 198 and 228 in the last 3 years, why am I talking about last 3 years? Because last 3 years the exam has been of 2 hours, and that's a possibility that next year also it is going to be of 2 hours. So let's have an analysis about that only. Of course, you would see in 2020 the scores are little higher with respect to these two, but actually that was because of the higher number of questions in the paper. But in 22 and 21 you will see once again there was a drop, and this drop was actually because the paper was slightly on the difficult side in CAT 2022 rather than in 2021. Even after being difficult, you will see that approximately 55% of the paper will give you 99.9 percentile. Approximately 47% of the paper will give you 99.5 percentile. Approximately 42% of the paper will give you 99 percentile. And approximately 30% of the paper will give you 95 percentile. That means 95% of the students could not even attempt 30% of the paper. Just by doing 30-31% of the paper, you could have gone above 95% of the people. That's what is the important point over here, right? Because why is it important? Because many of us actually do not even know that what is a good score in CAT, and we always have that idea of an exam from the 10th 12th graduation exams that we have appeared, that always above 80-90% is a good score, 60-70 is an average score, below 50 is a poor score. But let me tell you that 55% gives you 99.9 percentile in CAT. Rather, by doing 42% of the paper, you get 99 percentile, which is good enough to get a call from almost all the IIMs if you have a good profile as well. So Sri Harsha says, sir, is the percentile same for all the categories? No, Sri Harsha. It depends upon the college whether they have a separate quota for different categories or not. If there is a separate quota for that, then there are different, cutoffs for those. Though in your scorecard, right, that category would not be important. The scorecard would only be giving you percentile according to your score, but the colleges would have different cutoffs according to your percentile. That is definitely going to be there. Now, if these are the score versus percentiles, the first thing first is we need to know where do we, stand at this current scenario, right? Today, at what point are we? For that, generally we tell our students, write a mock of CAT, right? If you get a 50 percentile in the mock, this is very close to a 70 percentile in CAT. That means if today you are getting 50% in the mock test, there are good chances that if you write the actual CAT, you will get around 70 percentile. If you are getting a 60 percentile in mock, there are good chances that today if you write CAT, you will get 80 percentile in CAT, so on and so forth. This table gives you a comparison of that only, that what percentile is mock is equivalent to what percentile in CAT if you write that exam today itself. Hello, Shraddha Sharma. Good afternoon. A very good afternoon to all the other people as well, whoever has joined a bit late. I repeat, whenever you have a question or a doubt or you want to say anything, please put it in the chat box so that I also know that what doubt is there and I would be able to answer that. So this has been the scenario now, right? So first thing first, you need to know where do you stand so that you can decide your target. Of course, currently, let's say you are getting 70 percentile in CAT. So target that in 3-4 months, I should start getting something like 87, 88. And in the more time, I should be further improving it to go up to 92, 93, 95, 96. That is up to your caliber and your practice and your hard work, that how far you can go from that stage. Similarly, for the other percentiles, you can make some small milestones that I have to reach this percentile first, then I have to reach that percentile, so on and so forth. That can be decided according to that. Okay. Now we come to our today's topic. The today's topic is what are the important areas for CAT which you should be studying, and I am going to tell you about all of those that have appeared in the last few years, the sources for those as well, and this is going to be very useful information for all of you. I would request all of you to please share it with your other friends as well, whoever is preparing for CAT. This is definitely going to be very useful for each one of you, because you can strategize your preparation according to that, that okay, I have to pay more attention to this part, less attention to this part. That ways you can get an idea about it. So Sri Harsha says, sir, what score required to get into IMABC? Actually, Sri Harsha, there is a large range of that, because it depends not only upon score, it depends upon your 10th score, 12th score, graduation score, and then your extracurricular activities, your work experience as well. A person at 85%, even from general category, might get a call. A person at 99.8 percentile, even from SC category, might not get a call. So therefore it's a long range, बहुत सारी चीजों पे depend करता है. Probably I would not be able to answer it here, even if you tell me the profile, because there is a complete formula for that. If you want to check it, you can go on their website and check the selection criteria. They have given a long formula according to your 10th, 12th graduation scores and all, and then they decide what is it. Though generally, for example, IIM Ahmedabad would say that you should have minimum 85 or 90 percentile overall, minimum 80 or 85 percentile in all the sections, then you will be considered, right? After that, they would check at the other things, and then they would finally give you a call. But there is a big criteria for that. Okay. Chaliye. So if I talk about the CAT analytics now, let us start with VARC. What has happened in the last few years in VARC? I'm starting with that first. Okay. So as I told you, CAT 2019 had a total of 34 questions which were to be done in 60 minutes. CAT 2020 had 26 questions in VARC which were to be done in 40 minutes. And this was same here, 40 minutes. This was same here as 40 minutes. The number of questions next 2 years was 24 each. Now, out of these 34 questions, 24 questions were from RC. Out of 26 questions, 18 were from RC. And out of 24 questions, 16 were from RC. This can give you a fair idea that approximately 70% of the questions have been from RCs alone. In VARC section, 70% of your section is made up of RC alone. That tells you how important reading comprehension is. Not only that, if I talk about verbal ability, para jumbles, summary based questions, and odd one out or para completion based questions, they have been, para jumbles have been 4, others have been 3 in each year. Summary based questions have been 3 in each year. Odd one out or para completion were through, after that they were 2 in each year. So this clearly tells you that in VARC your focus area has to be reading comprehension, because 70% of the questions are actually based upon reading comprehension only. Not only that, even if you look at these areas, para jumble, summary based, odd one out, etc., none of these questions is based upon vocabulary. Though, of course, vocabulary might be needed a little bit to understand these. None of these questions is based upon grammar. Once again, grammar might be needed to understand these sets. But you can't say that these questions are directly based upon this grammar or vocabulary. All of the questions are actually based upon one single thing, that is reading. So therefore, to be good at VARC, the thing that you have to focus on primarily is good reading skills that you have to develop. Start reading from today itself. If you are not good at VARC, your job should be to read a lot. More you read, better you would be at it. And what to read, where from to read, let us talk about that as well. As I said, we have done some research on that. When I'm talking about reading comprehension in the last few years, you will see 23 out of 56 passages of RCs, 23 out of 56 passages, they have been from excerpts from different books, Aeon essays, and New York Times. And some of the passages have also been from Smithsonian magazines as well, right? So therefore, these are the areas or sources, you can say, from which you have to study these. Of course, you can find these sources on internet as well. So go to internet, just search for it, right? Eon essays, New York Times, you will find them there. Start reading from that. I'm pretty sure that initially it might be very boring. I mean, as a student, if I start reading it today, probably I'll have to, gather a lot of guts to start reading from these areas, especially for a person like me who is not that avid reader. I don't read much. So for that person, it might be difficult. Moreover, not only that, 27 out of 56 passages, that is approximately 50% of the passages in last 5 years, have been from sociology and anthropology, ecology, zoology, biology, and philosophy and psychology. These are the areas from which these sets have been there, approximately 50% of them. Now, once again, this also tells you something important here. Even if we have a habit of reading, we have been reading for a long time. How many of us are reading on the areas like sociology, anthropology, ecology, zoology, biology? Do we generally read from these specific areas? I do not think so. Of course, there would be people who have a habit of reading all these things. Most of the people, in my opinion, do not read from these areas, right? So here you have the sources from which RCs have been given. You have all the areas from which these questions have been asked. So that's an important thing for all of you, that what happens in VARC in the last 5 years, what has happened. That's what I have discussed over here. Second thing, when I talk about verbal ability, of course, RC is not the only thing. I also have to look at the other area of VA. The important topics to study in verbal ability are these all areas, because out of 112 questions, 48 questions in last 5 years have been once again from science and technology, ecology, zoology, biology, literature and linguistics, culture and lifestyle, philosophy and psychology. These are those two areas which are common in RCs as well as verbal ability, rather science and technology as well, right? So these are the three, I would say, favorite areas of CAT from which they would be asking you questions. And sources for verbal ability, they take them from variety of sources. Many a times they have been taking questions from different books. In the last 5 years, they have actually done that many a times. So therefore, you have to study different kind of books from different genres, so that you are familiar with the kind of questions that VARC would be asking you in the actual CAT exam. Okay. Now, at what score, what kind of percentile do you get in VARC? Last year in 2022, VARC was of 72 marks. Year before that, it was of 72 marks. Year before that, it was of 78 marks. In all the 3 years, the section was of 40 minutes. But you will see, out of these 72 marks, a person who has scored 17, which is approximately 25% of VARC, has 80 percentile. That means 80% of the people are not even able to do one-fourth of the section. 80% of the people are not even able to do one-fourth of the section. 90 percentile you get at a score like 24, which is 33%. One third of the section अगर आप complete कर लेते हैं, you get something like 90 percentile in VARC. And similarly, if you do approximately 50% of VARC, you would be somewhere below 99. You can say around 98 or 97. That is the kind of percentile that you will get in VARC. Of course, as I told you previously as well, that CAT 2021 was slightly on the easier side. Therefore, there these numbers were slightly on the higher side. But in 2022, this has been the picture. Okay. I'm sure you have got an idea what is to be studied in verbal ability and reading comprehension. I'll repeat. Reading is the most important area for you. From where to read? It is the different excerpts from the books that have been taken in these exams. So please try to read different kind of books. Eon essays, New York Times, Smithsonian magazines. These are the sources. And the areas from which that you have to study, they are, science and technology, sociology and anthropology, and psychology, ecology, zoology, biology. These are the common areas from which they have been asking questions. So make your study plan according to that, that you are doing only relevant stuff from CAT's perspective. Okay. I hope this point is clear. Can I just get a message from all of you in the chat box so that I know that you guys are listening to me, right? I hope my points are understood to all of you. And if I make sense, please do press the like button as well. Okay. Next, I'll move ahead now to DILR, the second most important area, rather, I would say the most important area. I always feel it's a game changer section. Let's talk about it. Now, what are the areas from which DILR has been asking you questions in the last few years? Let's start talking about that now. Here on your screen, reasoning based DI sets. There have been 10 sets in the last 5 years, rather 6 years, from 17 to 22. In the last 6 years, 10 sets have been from reasoning based DI. 7 sets have been from matrix and grid. 7 sets have been from matrix arrangement. 6 sets have been from scheduling and matrix. So matrix arrangement is one important area from which they have been asking you a lot many questions. Venn diagram, that is set theory based sets, have been 7 in the last 6 years. Then you have games and tournaments based sets, that are 6. Mathematical analytical reasoning, order and ranking, missing data. And this list is not complete, rather, we have more sets. Even after that, miscellaneous is the largest area among all of them. The maximum possible number of sets have been from the miscellaneous area, right? This shows that LRDI is something from which you can actually can't expect any specific type to have questions there in LRDI. You can't say that every year there would be questions on metrics for sure. You can't say Venn diagram is a surety, or reasoning based DI is a surety, or games and tournaments is a surety. As I told you, that even miscellaneous is on the higher side over here, right? Even after making 16, 17 different types, I am saying that still I have to make miscellaneous as a type. So as far as LRDI is concerned, always try to build your logical ability, I would say, rather than working on specific types. Of course, specific types must be done, right? You have to be comfortable with those types as well, because that is going to help you during the exam. You have to do that. But I would always suggest your logical ability is the most important area for you, which is something on which you have to work. Okay. Now, if I look at these sets from the perspective of their difficulty level, how easy, moderate, or difficult these sets have been in these last years. 2 sets we have found as very easy. 19 sets we have found as easy to moderate. 23 sets we have found as moderate. If I add all of them, this gives me 44 sets. So out of 75 sets in the last 5-6 years, 44 sets have been easy or moderate, that is approximately 60% of the sets, right? So approximately 60% of the sets have been either easy or easy to moderate level. That has been the case in LRDI. Also, metrics based questions, reasoning based DI, Venn diagram, and games and tournaments, they make up to 66.6% of the DILR section, right? That is approximately 2/3 of the CAT section, and acing them can actually give you 8 to 12 questions with ease. Now, how important is that? How important is this 60%? I mean, how big is this 60%? How big is this 66.6%? Just 4 areas could have given you 66% of the sets in last 4 years, 5 years. And the 60% of the sets would have been easy to moderate. Now comes the most important point. 60% means what? If you look at the score versus percentile, last year the section was of 60 marks, year before that 66, year before that 72. In all the 3 years, the section was of 40 minutes. Just see, a 99.5 percentile was there at approximately 54%. Just by doing 54% of the questions, you could have got a 99.5 percentile in LRDI. Approximately 50% would have given you a 99 percentile in LRDI. Approximately 33% would have given you a 95 percentile in DI, and just 25% of the section would have given you 90 percentile. 60% of the questions are easy or moderate, right? Look at that figure now. 66% of them are from only 4 areas. So can I assume, if I mean I am average enough with my luck, right? Just by doing 4 areas, probably I can easily get more than 99 percentile in LRDI, right? Just by doing easy or moderate level sets in the exam time, I can easily score more than 99.5 percentile if I just choose the right questions to be done. My filtration process has to be good. Which sets are to be done, which sets are not to be done. That will be sufficient for me to get a good score in LRDI. I hope you got my point here. ये आप सबको मेरे ख्याल से पक्का ही समझ में आ गया है that what is to be done in case of LRDI now. Okay. Then we move on to the next part, which is quantitative ability. Let's talk about that as well. In quantitative ability, 40% of the questions have been from arithmetic, that is time and work, time, speed, distance, percentages and averages, etc. 30% of the questions have been from algebra, that is quadratic equations, linear equations, higher order equations, functions, logarithm, inequality, sequence and series, etc. 40 plus 30 makes 70%. Just arithmetic and algebra make 70% of the quantitative ability section. Again, keep this figure in your mind that how big is this figure of 70%. 70% of the questions have been from arithmetic and algebra only. 70% of the questions have been from arithmetic and algebra only. Just 15% of the questions have been from geometry, polygons and triangles. Just 10% of the questions have been from numbers, that is HCF, LCM, divisibility rules, factorization and all. And just 5% have been from modern mathematics, that is probability, permutation, combination and all. So these are the important areas, I would say, from the perspective of quantitative ability now. Arithmetic, algebra, geometry, number system and all of that. So what are the important areas? Though it is very clear, arithmetic and algebra makes 70% of the quantitative ability section, but even in that arithmetic, right, I see that out of 22 questions last year, 8 to 9 were from arithmetic. Algebra had a large range. In one of the slots, there were only 4 questions. In one of the slots, there were 9 questions from algebra. Geometry and mensuration had 3 to 4. Similarly, year before that, out of 22, 6 to 8 from algebra, 7 to 10 from arithmetic. That has been the scenario all the years. But even in that arithmetic, what are the most important areas? Let's have a look at those. Here I'm talking about the last 3 years of CAT, which means 9 slots of CAT. In those 9 slots of CAT, 40% of the questions have been from arithmetic, and out of that 9% of the total QA, not 9% of arithmetic, 9% of the total QA has been from time, speed and distance. That's a big number, guys, right? 9% of total QA is time, speed and distance. The second biggest area in the last 3 years have been averages. 7% of the questions have been from averages. Third biggest area has been time and work, the largest possible area. And then I have mixtures and allegation. Though I would definitely suggest everyone should be doing percentages completely. In case of percentages, you can't leave anything aside. यहाँ पे आप ये नहीं कर सकते. You can probably do it for algebra or geometry or something or number system, that I leave some of the areas within those. But arithmetic should be done completely. These figures might change any year. Of course, you can pay a little more focus on time and work and time, speed and distance and averages. But all the areas are important. You can't skip anything. Keep that in mind. When I talk about algebra, now this is an area not all the people are very comfortable with that. In the last 3 years, approximately 33% of the questions in quant have been from algebra. The largest percentage belongs to quadratic equations. And after that, I have sequence and series and linear equations with the second largest percentage. And then I have logarithm and functions, the next 2 percentages. So here you can be a little selective about the type of questions. If you are not very good at algebra, I would say do quadratic equations, sequence and series and logarithms thoroughly along with linear equations. The other areas you can just do the basics and move on. This is, I am saying, from one more perspective, because apart from CAT, there is no other exam where algebra is the second most important area. Always, arithmetic has been the most important area. The second most important can be geometry, can be numbers, can be modern mathematics. Only in CAT, algebra has been the second most important area. So by doing these 4 areas in detail, you can do the other areas, probably just the basics of those. Now, When I talk about geometry, this is something that you can do all of them completely. 15% of the questions have been from geometry, and these are the percentages. You can't say ki acha 4.29 is not that high a percentage that I can say it is greater than 2.38, so therefore I would not be doing it. Probably you can do all of them, and you have studied all these areas in your school days. You would be able to do them fast enough. Number theory, anyways, not many questions on that. Modern maths, every year we have just one or two questions which are based upon modern mathematics. In last 9 slots, there have been a total of 10 questions on this. 9 slots, 10 questions. On an average, one question. And all of those questions have been from P and C, except two questions on set theory. So this gives you an idea that probably modern mathematics is not something that I have to pay attention to. So what is important area for us? Arithmetic, the most important area. Second most important area, algebra. But there also, rather than doing complete algebra, you can focus upon 4 areas that I discussed. In geometry, I think you can do it completely, because in some other exams, you will find geometry becomes the second most important area. Numbers and modern mathematics are not very important from any exam's perspective. Do the basics and move away. Probably that can be done if you just want to score decent enough in these sections. A person whose strength area are these, वो ये नहीं कर सकता. अगर आपका strength है तो you have to do all the things in these sections, right? Now, when I look at the score versus percentile, last year Quant was of 66 marks, year before that 66, year before that 78. Total was of 40 minutes. But once again, I see out of 66, approximately 25% of the paper would have given me 90 percentile. And approximately, I can say 33% of the paper could have given me 95 percentile. Approximately 50% of the paper can give me 99 percentile. And then approximately 55% of the paper can give me 99.5. But my point here is arithmetic plus algebra makes 70% of the paper. So can't by doing just these two, I would be able to easily score 99.8, 99.9 percentile? I would say yes, if you can do each and every question of arithmetic and algebra, but not all the questions are doable and should not be done. Why to spend so much of time on difficult questions? So probably easily a person can do 50% of the questions. I mean, out of these 70%, right? 50% भी अगर कर ले तो भी 99.5 तक पहुंच जा रहे हो. उससे भी कम करोगे. Just do the basic questions of geometry and number system. You can easily get 99 plus percentile just by focusing upon two areas completely and by doing just the basics of the other areas. So this is my thought about quantitative ability as well. I'm sure you have got a fair idea about the areas that I wanted to discuss. That was my target for today. That is all for today's session, guys. Now, if you are looking for CAT 2023 preparation, of course, we do provide you a comprehensive program. And for that, you can appear for an exam, scholarship exam on 15th of April at 7 p.m. on BYJU'S exam prep app, where you can win up to 90% scholarships. Just register for it now. Also, we are having a session on 8th of April, which will be taken by Srinivas sir at 7 p.m., which is about the roadmap to 99 percentile for CAT 2023. This session is also on the BYJU'S exam prep app. Also, we have started with these daily section-wise quizzes now. You can find them on your BYJU'S exam prep app, and you can attempt these quizzes and you can prepare well for your CAT 2023. We are starting with this series of 500 most expected CAT questions from April 6. So subscribe for BYJU'S exam prep YouTube channel now. This series has been very useful in the previous years and for the other exams as well. So just join us for this series. We have already started this series. You will get relevant questions from exams perspective in this series. We are also available on all of these media handles, guys. And that is all from my side for the today. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day now. We'll meet in some other session with some other topic. Till then, bye-bye and take care. Have a good day.